Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Friday morning. It's Friday again, believe it or not, but it's Friday. It's a still beautiful morning. It looks to be a cracker of a day, and a reminder that summer here in Australia is sadly coming to an end for another time in our lives. And at this time of year, every year, I tend to reflect on my life and to ask myself the question, how many more summers do we get to enjoy? Because life seems to be on a roller coaster, and we are moving ever so quickly through the years, and of course we've got some good times and bad times. So what I'd like to do is to reflect on a book today, a book which is an absolute classic. So a little bit different to what I normally do on Jim's 5am Club. I'll be covering a book which is a fictional book, similar to the book that I did the other day, 1984. But today I'll be going through and reviewing a book summary entitled Brave New World by an author known as Aldous Huxley. And it's a book that was written in 1932. So it's a book that was written before 1984, and it reflects on the experiences of the author between World War I and World War II. Some experiences that he received when he went to America in the roaring 20s and was overwhelmed by the lifestyle, by the promiscuity, by the drugs, the partying, and all of the things that come with a modern society, a society which moved ahead, which jolted ahead back then, and I guess caused him to reflect on his life and to put together this book, which is a masterpiece, which is as relevant today as what it was back in its time. So in this book, the author makes a bold sort of statement, which is quite thought-provoking. And he says that words can be like x-rays if you use them properly, as they can go through virtually anything. You read and you're pierced. So this book here, as we said, is a classic that looks at what a modern dystopia could look like. People in the new world become slaves to pleasures, not to work or to pain. So it's important to understand that slavery can manifest itself, can reflect itself, can feed itself through different avenues. And we all have the potential of being enslaved. We all have the potential of being imprisoned, not by others, but by ourselves through our own choices, is one of the key themes. that comes from this book. So what the author says, or what the author kicks off with in this wonderful book, The Brave New World, is that a perfect world in which you can have anything you want will eventually lead to disappointment, because it will be devoid of any meaning. So this book, I guess, is a warning to people to, I guess, wake them up, to put them on notice, and to let them know that life without struggle, life without suffering, life without commitment can potentially lead you to a place where you will not be happy, you'll not be satisfied, you'll not be fulfilled. So as the author here is saying, is that as we move into a world where we have a lot more choices, as we move into a world where we have more money, more pleasures or more potential pleasures that we can indulge in, there is a risk that you can get lost in that new world, because the myriad of choices, the multitude of opportunity can break you, can lead you astray, can get you to a point where you've climbed ladder after ladder, only to find that the ladders that you are climbing are up against the wrong walls, and you feel exiled from yourself. You wake up one day, you look in the mirror, and you no longer recognize the person who is reflected back at you, and you wonder, what happened? What happened along the way that got me to where I am today, and in a place where I no longer recognize myself, I no longer recognize the others in my life, and as we said, to a place where you are unfulfilled, unsatisfied, disappointed, and empty. You know, we live in a wonderful city called Sydney, and yet everywhere you look this month are references to World Pride, with images of rainbows everywhere you look, and you say to yourself, how do we get to this place? How do we get to the point where the rainbow, where LGBTQ asterisk, whatever it is, has become the dominant subject, the dominant thing on people's minds? How can a very, very small minority control the minds, the practices, the advertising space of the majority? So we need to understand that we're living in a world which is constantly changing, but not necessarily constantly changing in a proper way, in a way that's going to be sustainable, in a way that's going to fuel and to help society grow and develop over time. Because what we have now is a society which is characterized by cheap satisfactions, by individuality, by identity politics, by look at me and I am, I am important and everybody else is not important anymore. These affordable luxuries, the tattoos, the plastic surgery, the escapes, the holidays, all of those things are there to make money, but not necessarily there to grow us as people and to give us an opportunity to express the many wonderful virtues, the many wonderful skills that we all have, other than to seek pleasure after pleasure through consumption, through comparing ourselves with others, with social media, gloating and advertising, and trying to live a life that is not real. So what the author here is suggesting is that we need to be discerning with what we read, with who we follow, and who you hang out with, because eventually we'll become the mean average of those things that we have surrounding us in our lives. And I guess the concern that I have when I look around at this whole pride thing is to ask myself, proud of what? So once again, we need to be cautious, we need to be discerning, and we need to make sure that what we tune into is something that's going to allow us, our children, and our next generations to be able to live fulfilling lives, to be able to have families, and to be able to emulate and to leverage the lessons of the generations that have come before them, and not to become imprisoned in the pleasure palaces of what modern society is trying to build and trying to spread through its false messaging. Because the reality is, when you can have everything in your life, there is no colour. All the colour in the world on that LGBTQT rainbow can't give you satisfaction, can't give you purpose, can't lead you to a place that we're all destined to be one with God, to be one with each other, other than, of course, unless you want to be one with a minority. We need to understand that life, as we were told many years ago by the Prime Minister of Australia, by Fraser, life is not meant to be easy. Life needs its ups and downs, because it's through our downs, it's through the negativity, through the problems, through the challenges, through the sacrifices that we make, that we build a momentum. Because it's through our downs, it's through our painful times, that we see that we need to do something, and we need somewhere to go. As not having a destination, and this is an important point, not having a destination will make you restless, and we need to be restless in our life in order to fulfill and to achieve the key goals that each and every one of us have as a birthright. You know, we have a birthright to marry our loved one, to find our beautiful spouse. We have a birthright to have children. We have a birthright to become grandparents and to live the Word of God. We have a birthright to try and be one with God and to achieve all the wonderful things that are available for us to achieve in our life, not for our own personal consumption, but in order to become a partner with God in creation so that we can all benefit. So we need somewhere to go, and having a destination or not having a destination will make you restless. But at the end of the day, what we do, what we say, will lead us closer to our destiny, wherever it may be. But being in a constant state of satisfaction, this is a key learning from this book. Being in a constant state of satisfaction, being constantly happy, isn't necessarily going to make you fulfilled. There's a big difference between being happy and being joyous. Joy is a natural state one feels when they're one with God, when they're doing things that are God-pleasing, when they're glorifying God, when they're worshipping God, when they're being one with God, and also loving others as they love themselves. But happiness, on the other side, is just doing things to please yourself. It's just doing things to fulfill your own selfish desires. And the author here states that being in a constant state of satisfaction is in itself a prison that we need to try and avoid, and the only way you can avoid it is by being aware of it up front and making sure that the steps that you take, the ladder that you set up, is not set up in a place defined and conditioned by society, so that you're not looking back or looking down or looking somewhere else and saying that I'm up against the wrong wall. One of the challenges that people face is that we all want to belong. There is nothing we hate more than not fitting in. But we need to understand that fitting in is a bit of an illusion. That even homogeneous groups, the author says, even the most homogeneous groups have differences between its members, between its people. And it's a bit of a myth to think that we're all similar. Because the bottom line is that we're all born unique. We're all born different. We all have a different calling or callings. We're all going to live a different past. We're all going to live a different now, a different present. I am here, you are somewhere else, and we're all going to have a different future. There are differences between each other, lots and lots of differences. And the more you want to be similar to other people, the more you want to fit in to a particular group, a particular colour, a particular nation, or whatever it is. Along the way, you're going to realise that you are very, very different from everybody else in that group. And whilst you may have a few elements of similarity, you are going to be dramatically different from everybody else in that group. You know, there's only a few common elements that you may share, and everything else will be different. And in this book here, there's a scene where they take a trip to New Mexico, and they see people living traditionally. They see people aging. They see people mourning their losses. They see people partaking in religious practices. And that in itself is a tremendous and critical wake-up call to them, saying, well, there is a different way of living. You don't have to carry the flag. You don't have to be part of a cause. You don't have to submit to the wokeness in the society that we live in. Because, one of the traps of fitting in, one of the traps of being part of a group, morning, how you going, mate? Is that people who don't fit in find solace in each other's company. But it's only temporary, because sooner or later you'll find that you're different from those other people who don't fit in as well. So there's no magic bullet. We all have to find our own way. We all have to become one with God. We all need to live our purpose. And the Christian purpose in life is very simple. Being one with God, worshipping God with all your heart, mind and soul, and loving one another as we love ourselves. A very simple message, a very powerful message, but one which means that we need to be, as I said before, discerning. Else the demons will take over and will lock us into a never-ending prison, a myriad of mazes that once you go into those doors, once you go down into that rabbit warren, it'll lead you to other places and you'll never be able to escape. So not fitting in is the worst suffering, but we also need to understand that we are unique, we are different, we have lived a different past, we have different slithers of reality based on our experiences, based on the stories we say to ourselves, based on the meaning that we've given it. And we've got to be careful that we don't accept other people's meanings. We don't accept the rainbow meaning of life because there are other truths that we can follow, the truths that have been handed to us from our parents, our grandparents, our forefathers, our foremothers, the good people who have come before us, who have seen the whole myriad of social structure, social progress, and know that at the end of the day there are certain elements, there are certain social structures, there are certain democracies that can be sustainable, and there are others that are just a figment of our imagination, and often things are made to be more colourful, are made to look much better than what they really are. But we need to be careful, as we said, and to not go down that rabbit warren and get lost. The important thing to understand and to stand your ground is that people are different for a reason. We're different from each other, but more importantly, we're different for each other. And our differences are our greatest strength as a species. And the author here makes a very clear point that uniformity is but a myth. And to understand, and the message from Jesus, the message from our parents, is that for true happiness, we need the potential for suffering. We need to carry our cross, and our cross will be different to the crosses that others carry. Nothing costs enough in life. We need to go through the tough times. We need the salt and pepper in life. We need the spices. We need the colours. not the colours of the rainbow, of the LGBTQ asterisk, anything goes, rainbow. We need the true colours of life. We need the true colours of a Christian life to provide the poetry, to provide the stories, so that we can compare and contrast our lives to the lives of others, and to ensure that the reality that we have interpreted through the slithers that we've been able to observe through the mysteries of life are the right slithers and the right reality and the truth. And to live dangerously, and to be able to say no to things which are going to lead you to a place where you can't retrieve from. So be careful. And not having an open mind is not a disadvantage, because what we've learnt over time is that if you open up your mind and you're not discerning with what goes in via your reading, via your social media, via the people you hang out with, eventually your open mind will be an open cut tip, an open cut rubbish tip, where everybody else will bury, will discard their woke rubbish. And what you don't need is a mind full of other people's rubbish to confuse you and to lead you astray and to separate you from your mission in life, which is to be one with God, to serve God, and to love one another. Take care, stay on the path, and wishing you all the very best for this wonderful Friday. Bye for now, from Jim's 5am Club.